Howdy everyone, my name's Eric Miller and I'm here to talk about the Walther P1 and the Walther P5. Now this is a P1 and not a P38. They're exactly the same except for the name. The designation P1 means that this gun served with the Bundeswehr, the West German military. It's even marked BW on it. The P5 started its life out with BMI, which is one of the German police forces. Just off the bat, you can see that they're very similar sizes. They're about the same thickness, the same height, and they're about the same weight. Even though the barrel is shorter on the P5, the slide is longer. So they end up weighing just about the same. The P5 is a very odd gun just because it looks small. You look at it, it looks small, but we put it in your hand and it feels like a big full-size pistol. It's kind of strange. It's like an optical illusion almost. In fact, you can see in Never Say Never Again, you can see Sean Connery pull one of these out of his jacket pocket instead of a PPK, and I would definitely carry one of these concealed before I'd carry a P1. Not just because it's shorter, but the P1 has all these little pointy edges on it and all these things sticking out on it. The P5 is just streamlined and compact. I really like it. Very quickly, let's just go ahead and break both of these down and we can see how similar they really are. P1, put the safety on. This comes out. And we're done. P5, very, very similar, except there's no external safety to put on. Wow, it just comes apart. Barrels are very similar on the inside. They look different. Of course, the one is longer than the other, but they have the same locking block thing here, mechanism. Slides, of course, P5 being longer, and both of the sights are on the slide on the P5. The rear sight on the P5 is adjustable for windage, and also if you want to change the height, you have to swap out the whole rear sight. P1, you have to swap out the whole front sight to change the height, and the rear sight is not adjustable. The frames are very similar, both made of aluminum alloy. They're very, very similar. They have two recoil springs, one on each side of the gun. They're both the same on both guns. They're interchangeable. The trigger group is also extremely similar. The trigger action on both guns is extremely similar also. The P5 is a little lighter, just a little bit smoother, but they're both just beautiful. Okay, let's put these back together again. It's not terribly difficult. Except this little thingy here. There we go. And we're done. The P5 comes apart and goes back together a little more, pretty much in exactly the same way, but it's just a little smoother and quicker. And we're done. Let's talk about magazines really quickly. They are so similar, the P1 and the P5. The P5 is just a few millimeters shorter and it's got this little notch in it. If you can see it, oh, right there. Oh my gosh. So what is the deal with the notch and why is it a little bit shorter? Now, I have magazines that say both P1 and P38. They're completely interchangeable. They're exactly the same between P38s, P1s, whatever. It's the same thing. However, they are not interchangeable between the P1 and the P5. And it drives me nuts because I've got a huge stack of these magazines, and these magazines are hard to find. So why are they different? What was Walther thinking? Okay, so you've got your P1 magazine here, and you're running around and you accidentally knock your gun against something, and you've just unseated your magazine, and it's not going to feed properly now. So Walther thought, well, let's recess the magazine release inside the grip here. Well, you do that, and you know, the thing isn't holding out. You can't grab onto the magazine by the bottom anymore, so they put the little slot in there so the magazine grabs onto the slot. So they solved that problem. You can't accidentally unseat your magazine because, man, this is really, that's a tough, it's on there. But the problem is if you just try and, it's got this little notch here that holds the magazine in, it's sticking into the well. So if you try and just stick the magazine straight in there, it's not going to go in. So you have to finesse it past this little notch by doing something like this. which is like, oh man, they solved one problem and caused another. And unfortunately, I've been doing, took my P5 to a couple practical shooting tournaments, and both times, in trying to get a magazine in like this, I accidentally stripped a round off the off the thing here. So I ended up with only 7 shots instead of 8, which kind of sucked. So I kind of wish it didn't do that, but you know, what can you do? Now we'll talk about safety, man. Okay, I'm going to take my fake little practice bullet in here just to demonstrate. Here on the P1, we've got a loaded chamber indicator. This little pin here comes out, so you can feel it as well as see it. So if it's dark or if it's in your holster or whatever. This was a novel feature for 1938. Also, another novel feature for 1938 was the safety slash decocker. You put the safety on, and it drops the hammer. Now, one thing you should be careful about this when you're using it is not to allow the hammer to just drop on like that. Don't do that. Okay, that's bad news. Why is it bad news? Because there's this little part in the firing pin. Because the hammer is still hitting the firing pin, and there's this little part that keeps the firing pin from hitting the live round. And if you do that enough time, that little part's going to break, and then it's going to fire your gun, and probably in full auto, which is probably you know, something you do not want to have to experience. So every time you decock the gun, you should just put the safety on and lower the hammer with your thumb. It's just, you know, just in case. The P5, on the other hand, has a completely different safety and decocker, which is really cool, very simple, and I think it's just beautifully engineered. So you have the slide release right here. You've released the slide. Now you want to decock the gun, you just hit it again, and the gun is now decocked. So how does it safely decock the gun, like the P1 was kind of supposed to? Well, you can see the firing pin right here. It's a little silver thing. And then here on the hammer, you can see this little hole. When you decock the gun, the firing pin goes into that little hole. So how do you make it fire? Well, you pull the trigger, and when you pull the trigger, the firing pin moves. It goes up into position. When it's decocked, the firing pin is out of position. The hammer's not going to hit the firing pin is not going to hit the live round. Only when you pull the trigger is it going to push the firing pin into position where it can fire. So you can be carrying this gun, you can knock it around, you can drop it, do all kinds of horrible things to it, and it's never going to go off, it's never going to fire. It's just really simple, fascinating little piece of engineering when you take it apart and look and see how it works. It's really cool. And there we have it, the Walther P1 and the Walther P5, two fantastic guns, amazing pieces of engineering, both extremely reliable, both very, very accurate, and just really, really fun to shoot. They have fantastic triggers and 0 recoil. I mean, they are just a blast. So absolutely run out and buy one today if you can.